I have the pleasure of having Erik Miller here today, and he's running for as a candidate for mayor of the city of Oneonta. And the city of Oneonta is a very dynamic college town community. It's probably has many of the impacts that the rest of the country has in terms of economic stresses. There's a downtown area that needs to be revitalized. And he has an environmental background, and he's been an alderman here for how many years?
2 years.
2 years. 2 years. Okay. And so I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to know what the issues are, how the candidates present themselves, and especially as it applies to the landlords here in the city of Oneonta and our rental constituency. So, but first, in general, I want to start out by asking you some general questions, okay, and beginning with what has motivated you to run. What really gets to you in here? It's not a high-paying job to be a mayor. There's a lot of prestige, but you really have to be motivated. And secondly, with that comes, what are your goals? What's your vision for the future of the city?
All right, let me try to keep this all in order here.
Simple.
First of all, Erik Miller. I've been a resident here in the city for 10 years, which isn't that long. You know, when you think of the grand scheme of people growing up here, what's attracted me to the area is the beauty of the area. You know, I finished my high school in Delaware County, which is just right over the hill, and grew up in an urban setting in New Jersey, northeast New Jersey. I've had the pleasure of working throughout New York State, working with local governments, you know, helping governments on transparency issues, freedom of information, planning, zoning, you know, all these things that, you know, I always thought our hometown, Oneonta, was under control. And I never heard anything bad, never heard anything good. I always thought we were doing everything perfect. I run an environmental nonprofit here, and a lot of my interactions is with municipalities. About 2 years ago, when there was the issue of siting a biomass incinerator here in the rail yards, was the first time I started interacting with our local government. And it was at that time that I realized that our local government is as or even more screwed up than most of the other municipalities in New York State in terms of understanding their roles and responsibilities, but also involving the public and getting communication out so that people had an accurate say in what was going on. From that time, it really got me inspired to want to be part of the system so I could fix the system. Wasn't because I loved the low-paying job, but it was really because I wanted to make a difference as the community I call home. So I ran for alderman 2 years ago, and I was elected. And 2 years into being alderman, I realized that, you know, our council, the aldermen, we make policy. We establish policy based on what our constituents say. But it's the mayor's role to implement that policy across the board, all the department heads, and with staff. So I realized that all the policy that we're trying to fix, you know, is great, but without the proper mayor in place, it doesn't matter what policy we come up with, it's never going to get, things are never going to get accomplished. So it's the inefficiency of government that has really driven, you know, passionately driven me to want to make a difference here and run for mayor this term around.
So you mentioned, besides inefficiency, you mentioned transparency and communications. How would you fix that?
Well, transparency, communications, huge issue. Right now, there's no way for people to have any clue what's going on in, you know, council meetings. You know, even though it's a scheduled, you know, twice-a-month meeting, you have no idea what's before you. And as a property owner, you realize that, you know, we're making decisions without, you know, you having any idea of when to provide input. And over and over again is what happens. So it's not just once or twice. The reality is we need a better way to start talking to the public, and there's nothing wrong with going out to the radio and you know, every Monday morning, here, this is what's going on. This is what's going on committee-wise. This is what's going on with our departments and project-wise. This is what's going on policy-wise.
Why not have an email list that people can come in and give their emails and be on the list to know all the major activities?
Yeah, listservs are huge. You know, when it comes to technology, our city is so dated. There's no wireless in our buildings. There's no way to really do even conference calling. I can't call in to participate in a meeting. You know, the position of mayor, position of councilman is part-time. The reality with the mayor job is the pay is part-time, the responsibility is full-time. At 3 in the morning when I get a phone call from the chief of police, I can't just not answer the phone. I'm going to be, if I'm elected, mayor. And yes, this is the mayor and this is the decision of what we need to do. So it's a full-time job. You can't be fooled by that. It's a full-time job with half-time pay. Now, transparency is so important. You know, you're absolutely right. Listservs. Why aren't we using listservs? Why aren't council meetings, or even more so than council meetings, why aren't our committee meetings televised? There's no reason. We have a great telecommunications department at our colleges. We don't utilize the resources that we have here, and we think we have to pay out for absolutely everything. Reality is, it's a great learning experience to start partnering with some of the existing schools, the existing websites that we have, existing listservs. You know, it's just about time that we start reaching out and grabbing onto these things. So you have radio, the ability to use newspaper, ability to use television, and like this, the ability to go and put issues on specific websites or YouTube.
And you know, there are teleconferences where people put in questions and so on, and there's even using the internet to get, because I know we've had some serious tenant-landlord issues here, and I can't always make a meeting and sit there for 3 hours.
Right.
You know, and then things get passed, and I find out afterwards.
What's
so
even worse? What's even worse, or more concerning to the public, is the way meetings are run right now. The public has the first 15 minutes of a meeting to make public comment. It's not back and forth. It's not discussion. So if you have a concern, you can raise that concern, but then a meeting starts, and your concern isn't answered. So does it make you? Does it inspire you to go back and do that again? No. You're just like, I have a problem. I brought the problem up and they ignored it. What do I do now? So there's a huge communication issue with government right now. When it comes with your some of the landlord problems that you're probably most familiar with is in the city, definitions of family, the revamping of our current zoning, the moratorium that we have in place for certificate of occupancies. These are huge issues that specifically affect you. And summer rentals. And which one of those four have you had the opportunity to participate in?
Only the summer rental issue.
And just barely.
I'm just barely.
You're being nice. You were able to participate. Barely.
And I was basically ignored and circumvented, you know, so.
Right.
And
well, and on those 4 examples that we just brought up, what department in the city has to enforce those? Code enforcement. Are they part of the process? No. There's a management issue in city government right now where we don't manage appropriately. The people that are most involved, and the people that have to do the implementation aren't involved in the decision making. There's a problem there. We shouldn't be making, no mayor, no council should be making unilateral decisions affecting, you know, wide swaths of the population without having input from that population. It doesn't cost that much to have a public hearing. It doesn't cost that much to make sure the information gets out. And we have great newspapers and great radio stations where a lot of this information can go out. And then we have homeowner groups and niche groups that actually deal with certain issues.
Right. Well, yeah, maybe we can deal with each of the 4 landlord issues separately. And I was very involved with the summer issue. I lobbied very strongly to get objective rules put into the law, such as, you know, property has to have at least one off-street parking space, you know, it has to be in a certain zone, etc., etc. Then when I came to register a property, a tenant who was challenged, you know, left a bunch of garbage in the back porch, and when they moved out, and I was held responsible, which wasn't fair after I put umpteen dollars into renovating that house. In fact, I put so much love, care, attention, and I've been doing this now for